Hey guys, Carl from Purple Moose Plays. Today I'm going to be taking a look at the card drafting set collection tableau building game Villagers from Sinister Fish Games and designer Haakon Gaarder, in which players find themselves as sort of a mayor of a small village, recruiting villagers into their town and then ultimately sort of training them and giving them the skills they need to develop them into more specialized merchants with the ultimate goal of earning the most money at market. As normal, I will be doing a solo playthrough of the game, but before we get into the playthrough, I do need to mention here that I was given a review copy of this game by the publisher, but I'll do my best as always to offer my own honest opinions on the game. With that being said, let's head down to the table for the playthrough, and then I'll meet you back up here to let you know what I think. To set up a solo game of Villagers with the Countess AI, begin first by setting up your own player area, placing out a village square tile, a founder's card, the Jester card from the Countess AI deck, and 8 coins. Then set up the Countess by placing out the Countess card, giving her 1 coin, shuffling and placing out the Summer Event deck and Winter Event deck, and then turning over the first card in the Summer Event deck as the first event. Now these events are going to trigger in the event phase. I'll explain that in a little bit, but also some of them, like the one we just picked here, says in the build phase. So this is actually going to do something special in a different phase than the normal event phase. But again, I will explain that as we get into our playthrough of the game. Next, you're going to place out these 6 starting villagers into what is called the road here in the center of the table, which is going to be where we draft cards from. Place out the 3 stacks of basic villagers. Set aside the bank off to the side. And then finally, we're going to set up the rest of this drafting area known as the road. We're going to do that by taking the rest of the villager cards and removing the special cards. You will not play with the special cards in the Countess solo mode. You'll then take those villager cards, shuffle them up, and set them off to the side of the table. From those villager cards, you're going to make 6 piles that include 5 cards each, placing those cards face down. And then finally, you will take the 2 market cards, first market and second market. First market will be placed under the second stack, and the second market will be placed under the final stack at the end of the road. The remaining cards will be placed off here to the side as a reserve deck. And then finally, before starting play, we need to draw up to a hand of 5 cards to start. Now, instead of trying to explain the entire game before we get into the playthrough, I'm going to basically go over briefly what a round looks like. And then we'll go into each phase in detail as I play through the first round. And after the first round is finished, hopefully you've got a good idea of how the game plays, and then we can just continue on with the playthrough. So Villagers will play out over a series of rounds, and in each round we're going to go through a series of phases. The first phase is going to be the draft phase, in which we are drafting cards from this area in the center of the table, either from these face-up cards or these face-down cards. Next, we will move into the build phase, in which we are placing villagers either from our hand or from the cards we just drafted into our village. After the build phase, in the solo mode with the Countess, we're going to have the event phase, in which any event cards will be triggered. And then finally, if this stack has gone away during the drafting phase, we will have a market phase in which we score the first time. And finally, when this stack is gone, we will then have a second market phase, which we will do our final scoring for the game. After the second market phase, whoever has the highest score will be the winner. All right, so moving into the first drafting phase. In a drafting phase, we are going to draft the number of cards equal to 2 plus the number of these food symbols that we have in our village. At this point, we don't have any food symbols in our village, so we will only be drafting 2. After I have drafted a card, I will then also be drafting a card for the Countess up here. And then after we have both drafted a card, I will refill any of the face-up cards that have been taken with cards from the leftmost face-down pile. Now, it is worth mentioning again that I am allowed to draft from either these face-up cards or these face-down cards, but the Countess will always draft from the face-up row. So it's possible that we're replacing 1 card from this row or 2 cards from this row using the leftmost stack at the end of the drafting phase. And then finally, after we have drafted the number of cards equal again to 2 plus the number of food in my village, we will then move on to clearing this row. And what we're going to do is I'm going to have the ability to place 1 coin on any one of these cards basically saving that card there for future rounds. And all of the other cards that do not have a coin on them will be cleared, and they will be replaced with cards from the reserve deck over here. So let's go ahead and move into our first draft phase. Looking at my cards, actually before we do that, I should mention that when we're drafting, there are a few things we're looking for. We do want to draft cards that have food so we can draft more cards in future rounds. We do want to draft cards that have houses on them because these will let me build more villagers in future rounds. Anything with yellow coins will be scoring points, both in the first market and the second market. And anything that has these silver coins like this will score only in the second market. So taking a look at the hands that I have right now, I've got 3 coins for every 2 gold coins in my village. I've got a graper that's just going to give me food. I've got a horse trader that gives me 3 points for every 2 of these purple cards that I have. I've got a wheeler, which is just going to give me 3 points. And I've got a truffler, which gives me food and 8 points. Now we'll talk more about how we build these things and what this other information on the card means when we get into the building phase. But looking at my cards right now, there's one important thing we need to think about. In the first round, if we do not have any food in our village at the end of the round, this Founder's card, which is currently going to give me 2 points in every market phase, will need to be flipped over and will instead give me food. And I would prefer to keep those points because points are worth having. So I would like to place something with food into my village. Now I could do that by placing this poulterer, or I could do that by placing, for example, this graper or this truffler. But I cannot place this truffler because of the restrictions on this card, and I will explain those when we get into the building phase. All right, so let's see what I want to do. I do also want to make sure the Countess gets cards that don't have points on them because she's only scoring for points and it doesn't matter food and building unless she has another card later that says it scores on foods and buildings. So these cards are safe to give to her. Looking at what I've got in my hand, I've got a lot of sort of late game stuff. Yes, I'm going to recruit. Yes, I'll take this poulterer for me, and then I will give her this harvester up there. And then we replace those 2 cards, this one and this one. Now it would be very nice for me to have the ability to build some buildings later. And I haven't mentioned this yet, we'll talk about it in just a minute when we get into the build phase, but these cards that show this sort of lock on them are going to be required to unlock other cards later. So it's nice having some of these in my village, and every time I use this card to unlock something else, it will get coins. And this number 8 means there are 8 other types of card that unlock with this card. So I think that's actually not a bad idea to have because I would like to be able to build more in the next round. So I'm going to draft that one. And I will give the AI this brown card here. All right. Then we fill those 2 holes up. Ooh, that's a spelunker for 10 coins. That's nice to have, and a mason. All right, so that is the end of this round. I take those 2 cards into my hand. And now I have the option again to place 1 coin on any of these to save it. And right now, I am not looking at any specific color all that strongly, except that I have this card. If I save it, that's going to give me points for hay cards. But yeah. This spelunker, I haven't talked about chains yet, but this spelunker leads to a very nice chain. So I might hold on to that and see what happens. So I'm going to swap in one of these 2s for 2 1s. And place one of those on the spelunker, and then the rest of the cards get cleared. And we fill those back again from the reserve pile. And then we move into the build phase. Again, in the build phase, I'm going to be able to place a number of villagers into my village equal to 2, plus the number of these building symbols that I have in my village right now is nothing. The Countess does not take any build actions because she instantly places cards and doesn't follow any of the placement rules when she does during the draft phase. So in the draft phase, I'm allowed to place anything in my village as long as I can meet the requirements needed to do so. So you'll see that most of these cards are going to have multiple cards listed at the top. Let me find a longer one. Here's a longer one. So for example, any card that's before that card in sequence needs to be placed underneath this card. It means it needs to already be in your village and that card will be placed on top of the first card. Any card that comes after that name in sequence will be then placed on top of this one in subsequent rounds or subsequent build actions. Any card that has this lock symbol means that it needs to be unlocked by paying somebody else to place this card. So in this case, it says carpenter. So this is the carpenter. If I have this carpenter in my village when I place this card, I will place 2 coins on my carpenter. If the carpenter is in the AI's village when I place this card, I will have to place 2 coins on a carpenter there. If no one on the table has that card when I'm placing that villager, I instead pay 2 coins into the bank. It's worth mentioning if there is one in the AI's row and in my village, of course, I get to choose to place coins from the bank onto my carpenter and not pay the AI. In addition, several of these cards, for example, the lumberjack and the hare, are basic villagers, and the basic villagers come from over here. At any point during the build phase, I can choose to place one of the cards from my hand face down into any of the stacks here and take any one of the 3 villagers to place into my village. And all of these 3 villagers do not have any kind of special ability or any scoring ability, but they do have the ability to place 2 other cards on top of. So each of these cards will start 2 separate chains on them. So that means if I had one lumberjack card, I could place the carpenter and the wheeler, which both require a lumberjack, onto the same lumberjack card to make 2 separate chains. All right, so let's go ahead and think about what I need to build. I would love to have a building placed, and I really want to have some food out on the board. I can place this poulterer directly onto this founder because it says it needs a founder's card beneath it. So I'm going to place this on the founder. Again, the founder could hold 2 cards on top. When you place a card on top of another card, you place it such that it covers whatever is printed on that card as far as points or abilities are concerned. You should still be able to see the symbol at the top of the card and the name of that card. But that means when I place this card, I will no longer get these 2 points. Instead, I get this food and these 3 points. Now, I also want to place this carpenter so that I have an extra build action in the next round. I just realized something. This one requires me to have a carpenter, or I have to pay 2 coins to someone who does or to the bank. So I want to make sure I build the carpenter first before I place this founder. We also need to be careful in this round. Specifically, we've got this event card from the AI that says unlocking by paying the bank costs 3 gold instead of 2. So if I did place that poulterer without any carpenters out on the board, for this round specifically, I would need to pay 3 coins to the bank. So I really don't want to do that. So I want to make sure I place the carpenter first. But to do that, I need to place a lumberjack from over here. So I need to figure out which of these cards I'm willing to give up for now, right? Because these are going to get placed face down on a deck, and I can always choose from a face down card in future. So I think I'm going to place this peddler card because this peddler card will only score me points in the second market phase. So it's useless to me now. So I'm going to place it here for later in the game, and I will take one of these lumberjack cards. And taking a basic villager does not count as a build action, so I can still build 2 cards. And by the written rule of the game, I should be placing everything that I want to build on my village square tile to sort of remember or to show exactly what it is that I'm building. So I am building those two. I will place the carpenter first on the lumberjack, and then I will place the poulterer on the founders. Again, the poulterer requires a carpenter, so now I get to pay 2 coins from the bank onto my carpenter card. That is my 2 build actions, so I am done for this round. We move into the event phase. Normally in the event phase, we will trigger whatever event cards are here, but as I just showed you, this event card is a special event that manipulates or changes up the build phase. So we don't have to worry about that card this time, so that just gets placed off the table. Next, at the end of the event phase, we're going to draw the top card from the reserve and place it into the Countess's area. And we're going to look at how much that card would score if it were placed at that point. So this says 1 coin for gold equal to a value of coins placed on a villager. There are no coins placed on any of the villagers yet, so she's not going to score anything. In either case, she wouldn't be scoring right now. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to use that score to place out a number of event cards for the next round. If the drawn card would cause the Countess to score nothing, then she will place 3 events for that round. If she would score 1 to 9 based on the card drawn, we will place 2 events. And if the card drawn would give her 10 points or more, we will place 1 event. So in this case, because she wouldn't score on that card currently, we place out 3 events. So I'm going to draw 3 summer events. We will start placing the winter events after we finished our first market phase. So we're going to draw 3 summer events, and then I will take a look at what they do. The first event is the Betrayer, which says, take a top villager from your village and move it to the Countess's village. It cannot be a basic villager. Bribes. The Countess adds gold from the bank to a villager with a keyring and as much gold as the number in the keyring. We're actually very lucky with that because she has a keyring that only has a 2. So that's only going to give her 2 coins. I'm not too worried about that event. Customs says, event, pay the Countess gold for each villager of the suit you have the most of. So I need to make sure I don't have a whole lot of suits in my village. Right now I've got blue and I've got green. So I would be giving her 2 gold in either case. So I would like to be able to build this round in different colors so we don't boost that up. So the only one that really bothers me is this take a top villager from my village and move it to the Countess's village. Because what that means is she's going to take one of my good cards into her village. Unless we intentionally place something that's not great as a top villager. We also have the ability at any point to discard this Jester to eliminate one of these event cards before activating the event card. So let's see how this round plays out, and we may end up canceling that card. Then finally, before the end of the round, we check to see if a market has been triggered. Again, if this blue card is uncovered, we will do the first market, and when this red card is uncovered, we will enter the second market. But right now we have not, so we continue back into our draft phase. All right, looking at what we've got, I wouldn't mind getting this shipwright because it gives me the ability to build more, and that's not bad to have early on. I also know that I have this purple card coming up eventually that's going to let me score points for every 2 purples that I get. So if I start focusing heavily on purple right now, that's not a bad option. We do have this food, so I am drafting 3 cards this round. So let's see what we can do. We're going to start with, I don't want the AI to get anything all that wonderful. Actually, I wouldn't mind her to get that grazier. Yeah, I'm going to take that shipwright. And I will give her the grazier because, yeah, why not? Ah, hold on a minute. That would be a nice one for me to have to cancel that event of a top villager. If I place that as a top villager, I don't mind losing that card. So let's give her something else that's not great right now. Gold equal to the value. Yeah, as long as we don't get a lot of coins placed on her cards and we have one villager that only has 2 cards, sorry, 2 coins, that's not bad. I'll let her have that. So we're going to fill in those 2 holes. All right, there's another one of those horse traders, and this fromager is great, but you need to have a hare, a grazier, and a milkmaid before you can place that out. Now, I am a little bit bummed because I did want to take that grazier, and now I can't unless I give her something great. And I don't know that I want to do that yet. What do I have that I can place high? Actually, why not? We can give her this wheeler without any huge issue. So let's keep that and think about that. In which case, I am going to take this fromager for later, give her the grazier, and we place out again. All right, now, in order to place this spelunker, which is worth 10 points and very nice later in game, I'm gonna need the seeker. The seeker doesn't do anything for me, unfortunately, except allow that to happen. Actually, the seeker would be the perfect top card to play to give to her. No, I changed my mind. I'm gonna take this hay card because I want more purple cards. And we got this Thatcher. And then I will give the seeker to the AI. And we will refill there. Oh look, another seeker. Good. All right, so I've got 3 cards. And now that's the end of the draft phase. I can again place 1 card on any of these cards to save it if I want to. I wouldn't mind keeping that seeker there in case I can score the spelunker later, but I don't know that I want the spelunker. And actually, if I can get this horse trader and keep piling up points on purple, that could be a good thing. All right, let's do that. That goes away, we fill back in these cards. All right. And I would like to place out at least 1 top card that I don't mind losing to her because I don't want to waste a jester yet. So I get to place 3 cards. And I'd love to be able to, hold on, take a top villager from your village and move it to the Countess village. It cannot be a basic villager. That's actually pretty interesting wording because basic villagers are just these 3 types. And I have a Graper. And Graper I can just place, and that would be the top on that chain, and I could just pass it to her. I do see a Vintner coming up, which would be nice to have, but I don't really care. So I'm going to place that Graper because I can. And then we are just going to start thinking about scoring because market's coming soon. And I'd like to be able to build more. So I'm going to place out this shipwright to score 2 points and more building. So I'll slide that down and put that there. And now I can build 1 more. Unfortunately, this I need a swineherd to place down. If I do not have a swineherd, I can't play the truffler. So we can't play that right now. This is the end of my green, so if I want to start new green, I need to get more green. Actually, I think I might aim towards this Thatcher. So I want to get a hare because I do want to start scoring some purple. Yeah. So I'm going to get rid of this wheeler that I don't really care about. And when I say get rid of, it just means place down. So I'll place it here in this stack, take a hare, and for my 3rd placement, I will put out the Thatcher. So that is the end of the build phase. We move into the event phase. First event, take a top villager from your village and move it to the Countess's village. It cannot be a basic villager. So I'm going to move this Graper there. Next, pay the Countess 1 gold for each villager of the suit you have the most of. So I have the most of right now green, which is 3. So we're going to pay the Countess 3 coins. Means I need to break one of these 2s, and then we will pay the Countess 3 coins. Then finally, the Countess adds gold from the bank to a villager with a keyring in her village and as much gold, no, add as much gold as the number in the keyring. So I'm going to choose this one that has a 2, and I will pay from the bank 2 gold onto that harvester. And then at the end of the event round, again, we draw from this deck. This said she would score 3 for each food symbol. She has 1, 2, 3. That's 9 points, means we draw 2 events because it's still less than 10. So the first event we drew says, temporary employment. The Countess earns gold for each different suit present in your hand. So I want to empty out my hand or have a whole lot of one suit, if possible. And then, value-added tax. Pay the Countess 1 gold for each gold symbol in your village. All right, so right now I've got 3 gold symbols in my village, so let's try not adding a ton of gold symbols this turn, if possible. All right, we are drafting 3, we will build 4. I would love to find a grazier and a milkmaid at some point to build this fromager. I definitely want to build some of these horse traders and get more of these purple cards. And I wouldn't mind placing this truffler, but again, to place this truffler, we need a swineherd, and I would have to pay coins to a hunter, and there aren't any out, so I would pay to the bank for that. So let's see what we've got available to us. I don't really like much of what is out right now. More food is not a big deal, but this is just going to unlock 2 other cards, and that's not super helpful right now. And that's actually a great card to give to her, except now she's getting points for every food. So I don't want to give her too many foods if possible. Actually, I think I want to give her this carpenter because that's not worth anything to her right now. So let's aim for that. I know that this is the one that I placed back before. That's just silver coins, which I don't need right now. Yeah, so I'm just going to take this horse trader because I do want it eventually and it gets me 1 coin. I will give her the carpenter. And then we refill. Grocer, which gives me points for food. And a wheeler, which is the one that we discarded last time. Now, this has been triggered, means at the end of this round we will move into our first market phase, which I will explain when we get there. All right, so I'm drafting 2 more times. I'm not a huge fan of what's out there right now, unless I start aiming for some green stuff. I do know that the wine stuff gets pretty good towards the end, and there is another grape card coming here. But that one's going to require a Cooper, and there is a Cooper right here, which a lot of things will use. So why don't I go ahead and draft a Cooper and give her the wheeler. Yes, the wheeler. And we refill that. Another vintner. And hey, ooh, there's the milkmaid. I want that milkmaid for my fromager later. So I do think I will take that one. And we need to pay attention now because, I could give her this harvester, which is worth 3. This is worth 5 points twice. The silver only scores at the end. Yeah, this is the best option. We'll give her this card here. And that is the end of the draft, except we have to fill these back in. Fisher and brewer. Brewer is nice. That's food and building. Fisher is food and 3 points and pays my shipwright. Yeah, I don't really care about any of those cards, and I'd like to see new ones come out. So we're going to clear all of those. And we will fill back in. 1, 2, 3. Ooh, that bed builder looks double purple for me. I like it. All right. And we move into our build phase now. I've got 2 buildings, so I can build 4. But remember, one of the events is paying gold, or the Countess is earning gold from the bank for each. For the gold in my village, I'm paying her. And I only have 3 coins, which already I have 3 gold symbols. So I guess I don't mind because I can't pay her any more than 3 coins. So I'm not too worried about that, actually. All right, so let's see what we got. I can't use the truffle yet because I still don't have the swineherd. I can't use the fromager yet because I don't have a milkmaid. I could place out a horse trader. It's not going to do anything yet. Sorry. I can place the fromager because I have a milkmaid, but I can't place the milkmaid because I don't have a grazier yet. So I think I've done pretty badly this round because I have 4 builds and I don't think I can build 4 cards. All right. Yeah. I can place the Cooper. I can place these 2 horse traders. I don't know that I want to, but I do want to place the Cooper. So we need to first get a lumberjack. And I'm going to get rid of this truffler. Yeah, sure. So we'll place the truffler here to take a lumberjack. And I will build the Cooper on my lumberjack, so that's 1 placement. Paying a blacksmith. There are no blacksmiths out, so this goes away, which is nice because now I only have 1 coin to pay to the Countess. And then she's going to earn 2 gold for each different suit. Right now, my whole hand is purple, which is great for me. I will place out one of these horse traders. And I'm not going to place anything more because I want another hare, but I don't have anything that I want to get rid of right now. So I'm going to not do anything else. That's a waste of a turn, but that's the way it is. All right, so we move into the first market phase. In the first market phase, we are going to earn points or money equal to the gold coins on our card. So the Countess has a 4 placed on her original card and a 3 on this wheeler, so she will score 7 points for this round. So I'll put out a 5 and a 2 for her. And I've got 3, 2, 4, and 2. So that's 5, 9, 11 for me. Sorry, before we did that, the event phase happens before the market phase. I'm sorry, so I do have to do the events. So I'm paying the Countess 1 gold for each gold in my village. Again, I only had 1 coin, so I give her that coin. And then she's earning 2 gold for each different suit. We saw that I only have purple, so she's getting 2 coins for that. So then we did do the market phase. I earned 11. She earned 9. No, she earned 7. And we move back into our draft phase. Now, I do need something that I can get. But before that, again, I forgot to complete her event phase. We should be drawing 1 more card to add to her row, which in this case is a Graper, which is sad because that's a good one to have for those other wine cards, but also it's giving her 3 points for food. And because it scores 0 points normally, she's going to place out 3 event cards. And since we've passed the first market phase, we're going to move into winter. So the first event is Arrest. That says, discard a top villager in your village. It cannot be a basic villager. Okay, discard's not bad. It doesn't give her anything. Next, it was you. The Jester must be played before the end of this round. All right, so I am canceling something. I'm gonna set that off to the side because that's not an event that hurts me. It just reminds me I need to use the Jester. And finally, Dark Mood. This is a bad one. Immediately when revealed, discard this event and deal 2 new events to replace it. So I get 2 more events. So Abduction event, discard a villager from your hand. And Spy Network says the Countess earns the value of 1 of your silver symbols. All right, so one of those we will cancel with our Jester this round because we have to play the Jester. All right, so looking at these drafting cards, I'm going to take the Bed Builder because I want more purple, and that's a double purple, and that's wonderful. And I will give the Countess this Watler card because all it's going to do is give it builds. Right now they're not scoring on builds, so I don't care. Grains goes here. There's another Truffler that we need a Swineherd for, and a Jeweler. Right now the Countess is only scoring silver coins on coins that are placed on cards or food. So I don't care about anything else right now. So I think I'm going to aim to get her this 3. No, this is even better. The Woodcarver scores 1 point for green cards with gold on them. and there's only one of them in her village. So that would only be a 1-point card for her. So let's get her that card. I'm going to take this hay card just because it's a hay card. Peddler, we saw that before. I kind of knew that was coming. And again, I will give her this wood carver. And we'll place another card out, which is the wine trader worth 14 coins at the end, which is big. But I don't really want that because I don't have... She's got both grapers and there's no vintners out. That's not likely to help me. So let's try something else. I'm going to take this other hay card and hope it's a good one. The Ore Mueller. This gets me gold for ore, which I don't have any of at this point in the game, so I don't know if I care about that, but that's fine. And I'm going to give her the Chandler, and we will refill that like that. Is a beekeeper, 4 points, and pays my carpenter. I don't mind that, but you know what? None of this is amazing, and again, I want some more purple. I want some things that combo off of what I already have. So I'm going to let that clear, and we will place out 5 cards. The Cartwright's nice if I can find a wheeler. There's a hay coming next, but not quite yet. All right, so now we move into the build phase. I do have some hair. They're all hair cards. So I definitely at least need one more hair. I don't care about the Ore Mueller because it's getting me points for ore and I don't have any of those. So I'm going to place that out, let's say here, just to get it out of the way. And I will take another hair. And on that hair, I get to build 5 different things. I don't think I can this turn because I still don't have that grazier. But I will place a bed builder, which gets me 2 coins on my carpenter. And I will place another horse trader. And that is the end of that chain. If I want another one, I'm going to need to pay for it. I'm actually stopping there again. This is a little bit sad. I really hope this card is a grazier, or if not, that this next card is a grazier, but we'll see what happens. All right, so we're looking at the 3 events. Countess earns the value of one of my silver symbols, which right now the only silver symbol I have is purple, and that would give me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 divided by 2 is 3 times 3 is 9 coins. Event that makes me discard a villager from my hand, which I don't mind getting rid of this peddler card, or discard a top villager in my village. It cannot be a basic villager. Either I'm discarding a villager, which is not great, or I'm giving her 9 coins. I really don't want to give her 9 coins, but I also don't want to get rid of my food this early. Well, not this early, but that's my only food. So, yeah, I'm going to use the Jester to get rid of the card that says she earns the value of my silver symbol. I'm going to discard a villager from my hand, which is going to be that peddler card. And then I am going to discard a top villager in my deck. Sorry, in my village, which is going to be... Yeah, I'm going to get rid of the shipwright. It's the same as the Thatcher, but it's not a purple symbol. And it opens up some green for me, which potentially could be nice. Because I could place a wheeler and get this Cartwright, possibly. All right, so that's that. We draw one more card for her, which we're sort of running out of space. Bed Builder is 4, means she places 2 event cards. First one is Blackmail. Event. The Countess scores the highest printed gold value on a villager in my village, which right now is 4. I don't really care so long as I don't place this fromage this turn. Second event, Tribute. Event, pay the Countess 1 gold for each villager in my hand. I need to clear out my hand, but if I clear out my hand, then I pay her 15. So let's see what happens. All right, so starting the draft phase, again, I'm drafting 3. I really want a grazier. Let's see if this one is a grazier. It is. I got lucky. So I've got 1. And I'm going to give her... Log rafter gets me 1 for every wood. That would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points. This gets me 3 for browns. I don't want that. This gets me 3 plus 3 for food is 6. So I'll place the log rafter there. And this goes here. If it's a wheeler, that's great. It is. Then I will take that wheeler. Yes. Yes. That means she's going to get this poulterer, unfortunately. I'll put it sideways for now until we have a little more space. Poulterer, and we replace those 2 with a peddler, which I don't care about, and a swineherd. That's the one I was looking for before that works with the truffler that's no longer there. I would love the ability to take that Cartwright. I could give her that swineherd, but that's another 5 points. But I don't have anything then to discard to get my hare, and I need to do that badly. Well, let's just take something we don't really need. I'm just gonna take, but something that we can use later. Yeah, I'll take the Cartwright and put it back. That'll work for me. Yes, okay. And then I will give her the swineherd. And that is the round. We refill again here. Hunter and another fromager. But I don't think we're going to be able to find another grazier and milkmaid. But we'll see. All right, so that's the end of that. There's nothing in there that I want to save except maybe that fromager. So I'm going to let that stay and hope that something comes out of it. And we will fill that up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 goes there. All right, so I am building, remembering that everything card that's in my hand, I pay 1 gold to her 4. And she's going to score the highest printed gold value that I have. So first I'm going to return the Cartwright here, because it's the only stack left, to take 1 more hare, which I will place here. Then I will play a grazier, that's my first play. My milkmaid, that's my second play. I'm going to stop there because I don't want to give her 15 points from that fromager. So that's 1, 2. I am allowed 4 builds, but I only have 1 left. I'm going to put the wheeler there, and we'll call that the end. So I pay the Countess 1 gold for each villager in my hand. All right, so we're cashing out the 10. I get 9 back, and I place 1 on the Countess. And then the Countess scores the highest printed gold in my village, which is right now just 4. So I'll place out a 5 and take back a 1. And then 1 more card for the Countess. Glassblower scores 4 points, which means we take 2 events. First one is conscription. Says the Countess takes an extra villager from a face down stack on the road or the reserve. All right, so she's going to get an extra villager. And the second event is rats. In the draft phase, draft 1 less card or pay 3 gold to the bank. All right, so I have the ability now to draft 2, 3, 4, 5 cards this round. And I definitely want a Cartwright. She's scoring anything for ore? She's not. So that's only a 2, so I'll give her that card. And we fill back in. It's the ore muler again. I would love that fromager, but I do guarantee there's no way we're getting another grazier and another milkmaid this round. So I need to start thinking how to score more points. This is getting me 1 for each green. Would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 points. I like that. I'm taking that. 3 per 2 black. Right now she has 4, so that would be 6 points. The hunter gets her just 3 for food, so I'll do that. And we fill back in. Truffler and a swineherd. Well, the two of those would get me 8 points, but then I'd have to give her 2 coins on her hunter, and I don't want to do that. I have a purple space here. I wouldn't mind grabbing a purple just to have a purple, but then I don't have any ore. We could see what that brown card is randomly. Now I am allowed to draft 5 cards, but rats say I draft 4 or I have to pay. I don't think I'm gonna pay. So I'm going to take, I'm gonna take this Ore Mueller just to have another purple card. As we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, that would make 12. So that's good. And I will draft for her this 2 and food. Then we fill in. Oh, there's another milkmaid, but there's no way there's a grazier because that's the grains, and we'll never get down deep enough in there, I think. So, Freemason is 3 for each building. I only have 2 buildings, but 6 points isn't bad. But I do have to pay a brewer. There aren't any, so I would lose 2 points to get 6 points. That's not horrible. The Truffler needs the swineherd that I just got rid of. Now, what do I want to give her? She's got 3 buildings, that's 9 points. 2 of these is 6 points. Yeah. Well, I'm going to take this grains and hope it's something that I can place directly on a founder. So I'm going to take that as my 4th card, which is a brewer. Huh. Okay. So she'll take this, milkmaid. And that gets replaced from here. That will trigger the last market, means the end of the game is coming at the end of this round. Now, I can pay 3 gold to take my 5th card. Do I pay 3 gold to get this card? Absolutely yes. So I'm paying 3 gold to the bank because of rats, and I'm taking this Freemason, which means she also gets another card. These are all pretty big scoring cards. And I think this Cartwright is the one I will give to her. We could refill this, but it's not going to matter. That's the end of the game. So I'm just going to clean these up to get them out of the way. Make some space. Rats don't matter anymore. Draft phase is over, so I'm going to set that aside. I do have to remember that at the end of this event, she's going to draw 1 more card from there. But right now it's my turn to build things. I have the ability to build 1, 2, 3, 4 cards. So I definitely want to build the Fromager. I definitely want to build those 2. I think. Hold on. This gets me 3 for buildings, would be 3, 6, 9. 3, 6, 9. Plus 2 for building and 2 for building. Yeah, maybe. Log rafter would get me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, all right. So I'm going to build the Cartwright, which I don't have space for. Let's move things a little bit. All right, so we'll build the Cartwright here. No, sorry. The Cartwright gets built on the lumberjack, or on the wheeler. So we're going to build the Cartwright there. And then I'm going to build those 3. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, Fromager gets built here on the milkmaid. The brewer gets built here on the founders. I think. Hold on. By doing that, I get 5 points. By doing this, I would get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 points. Yeah, maybe I don't do that. 5 and 3 is 8. Either way, I get 8 points. Yeah, all right. So I'm going to play the brewer there, which puts 2 coins on my Cooper. And then I'm going to build the Freemason on its own. Let's just stick it there so we can see it on the screen. 3 for each building, which is going to happen at the end, but it does say brewer, so I get to place 2 coins from the bank onto my brewer. That is my 4 cards. I am done. Her event triggers, she takes 1 extra villager from here. Wow, that's a big 20-point hit at the end of the game. All right, so instead of putting out coins, I'm just going to go ahead and add up the score. For me, I start with 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 coins, plus 3, plus 9, plus 4, plus 2, plus 4, plus 15. And then I get 3 for each building, which is 1, 2, 3 is 9 points. And then I get 3, 6 for each 2 purple. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I didn't get a chance to put out that last purple. Is 5 times 6, 30 points. I finish with a score of 91 points. Now for the Countess. She's got 5, 10, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 is 20, and 2. So she starts with 22, plus 4, plus 3 for the wheeler, plus 2 for the swineherd, 2 for the blacksmith, 4 for the glassblower, 2 for the swineherd, 3 for the poulterer, 4 for the bed builder, 3 for the chandler, 9 for the cartwright, 20 for the jeweler, 1 for the value of coins placed on a villager. Sorry, there was a 2 there. So she gets 2 there twice. So that's another 4 points. Plus 3 for each food, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Wow. 33. Plus 1 for each wood symbol. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Plus 1 for each yellow gold symbol on a green card, which is 1, 2. And she finishes with a score of 124. So I've now lost 91 to 124. Now while we're here, I do like to usually take a look at the components. Pretty much everything that comes with this game is out here already on the table as far as components. There are a few other types of cards that aren't out on the table, but they are just cards. The card quality here is not bad. It's a little bit, I don't know how to explain it. It's thin, but a little bit stiff at the same time. They are glossy, but they're not the most easily shuffled cards, and there is a big stack of them. So shuffling is a little bit trickier, but it's not bad. The quality of these cards is certainly not bad quality, just that it could be. There's no linen finish. The feel of the card is a little bit less than I'd like, but again, not bad. The artwork on these cards, I really like. I really like the artwork. It's very charming. The colors are pretty easily distinguishable. Now, I don't know how it would read for somebody who's colorblind, for example. The light blue and the green are not all that much different. The coins I really like. I do like this sort of box or chest that the coins comes in. I know that there are wooden coins available for this game that look absolutely amazing, and I would love to upgrade to those wooden coins at some point. Looking at the box itself, it comes in a long, thin box like this. Again, great artwork on everything. In addition to the coin sort of chest that fits in there, there's also this longer chest that holds all of the cards with dividers. Road setup, player setup, basic villagers, regular villagers, Countess cards, cards for 4 more players, and these are all expansions from the Kickstarter. I've got some promos in here, and there's still a ton of space for sleeves, or if the expansion that's coming out later this year can fit in there as well. So lots of room, very nice organization. I really like the dividers. It makes things set up and put away very, very easy. So I'm quite a big fan of the insert here. Now I do know that the box for the wooden coins is a little bit larger, but it does still fit in this container. So I'm very happy with the way that this sort of packaging has been designed. So with all that being said, meet me back up top and I'll let you know what I think about the game. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the playthrough. Villagers is one that's been on my mind for quite some time, but after it came out a while back, I never really paid it much attention. And then last year, Sinister Fish Games kickstarted a new game called Streets that really caught my eye, and I started digging more into the publisher, and I remembered this game Villagers that I had thought about before and never really paid attention to. Well, now Villagers has an expansion coming out on Kickstarter later this month, and I thought this would be the perfect opportunity to dive in and see what this game is all about. Now, as I mentioned up top, I was lucky enough to get a review copy of this game from the publisher. I also did snag a copy of the expansion that I will show you in a later video as well. But let's focus on what I think about the base game for now. Having played this game quite a bit now, I have to say I do really enjoy what this game is offering. I will say that the first time I tried to play this game was online, I believe on Tabletopia, and I read through the rules and it wasn't really clicking with me, and it was really hard to figure out this sort of chaining of the cards and how that was going to work simply by reading the rules and playing around with it on Tabletopia. So I was a little bit daunted or a little bit worried going into this game that it might be more complicated than it needed to be, or maybe it just wasn't going to be a game that was for me, but I was very happy to see that I was wrong. Setting this game up on the table and reading through the rules while the game is out on the table, everything makes perfect sense. And the game here is just a whole lot of fun. I really enjoy the way that the card drafting works, that you can draft from a set of face-up cards or from a set of face-down cards if you don't like what you see. And the cool thing is that all of the cards have the type of card on the back. And you saw now how these cards chain together. So if I want to place a certain card, I might need to have a different card to place that card on top of. So you do sort of know the type of cards that you're looking for ahead of time. So if you don't see anything in the face-up row that you are interested in, you can choose from one of the face-down cards that has the potential to work with the strategy that you're working towards. And I really like that idea. Now, talking about this strategy or talking about the thinking in this game, there's a lot going on here. There's a lot of really cool things going on here. There are some cards that score you both in the first market and the second market, and those will give you flat points. There are some cards that will score you based on other sets of cards that you have, and those tend to score only in the second market phase. There are some cards that basically are just there to build up a chain to get to further big point cards later on. And now while you're thinking and while you're planning for all of these different points, you have to start thinking, do I want to aim for those cards that have really big points? Or would I like to start aiming for some of those cards that have smaller points based on sets and then really start working on building more and more sets of those types of cards? Meanwhile, hoping that as I build up those sets, the cards inside of those sets also score on other things. So you're building these chains of cards based on, how they need to be placed on top of each other, but you're also starting to build these chains of points and scores, and this scores on this, and then because I have this, it scores on these other things. And you really start to see these patterns that you're looking for as you draft. Now, the cool thing is, you start with the same 6 villagers on the road at the start of the game, meaning the same 6 face-up cards, but everything else is shuffled and random. So you don't necessarily know the order that things are coming out in the game, and you certainly don't know even if the cards will be in the game at all, because if they're at the bottom of that reserve deck, they may not ever make it into the game at all. So there's this somewhat of this push your luck element that this is the plan that I think I'm going for, but this plan is only going to work if the cards that I need come out, and not only come out, but come out in the order that I need them to come out in. So I do like that push your luck element to this as well. Now, while you're doing that, you do occasionally need those basic villagers to start those chains that you're going to place onto. And this is where something else interesting happens, because remember, you're discarding a card, but not really discarding. You're placing a card back at the top of one of those stacks in the road in order to buy yourself or to recruit yourself one of the basic villagers. And what that lets you do is it lets you take some of those big point scoring cards with the silver coins that only score in the second market, or some of the cards that need to be placed later in a chain, and you can effectively save them for later in the game by placing them on top of one of those face down stacks in order to get yourself the basic villager. So you're not losing anything from that. You're just sort of delaying things. And I really like that thought or that pattern of, let's see what we can do, or let's see how we can plan taking things from the road to make sure that I have access to that card, but then placing it back into a stack so that I can do other things now and then assure that that will come back out later. And I really like that sort of forward planning. And in the solo game, I'm playing against the Countess, and I control everything that's being drafted both by myself and by the Countess. So it really effectively turns those face down decks into sort of an extension of my hand that I can plan for future terms or future actions based on the cards that I'm returning and where I return them to. And I think that's really cool. And then on top of planning for these points, you also have to plan to have food in your village so that you can recruit more people or draft more cards each round, and have those builders in your village so that you can start placing more of the villagers each round. And you really need to work with the balance of these things, because a lot of those cards that give you food or that give you buildings are not cards that are scoring points necessarily. And that could end up hurting you as you move forward if you take too many of those builders and those food and not enough of the point scoring cards. And you'll see in the playthrough that I just played, that sort of did hurt me a little bit because I hit that huge point score at the end based on the purple cards, right? The hair chained cards. But the rest of my points were sort of tiny and little here and there, and I should have focused more on getting either one more big combo or a couple more of those really big point scoring cards in order to increase the score that I ended the game with. So there's really this unique balance. And then what hurt me even more in my playthrough is something you really have to be careful of, is that my hands were full of all of these cards that I couldn't use until later in the game. So even though I had the ability to build more things or to place more villagers in my village on each round, I didn't have the cards to place. So I wasted a ton of actions in my playthrough because my planning at the beginning really hurt my mid-game before getting to the end of the game. And I really like that. I like this idea. This is probably the worst game I've had yet, aside from my first one or two learning games. But it's interesting to me how much the way that the cards come out, the order that the cards come out, the specific cards that come out or don't come out in every game really do change up the available strategies or the available combos or chains or whatever you want to call it. It really is cool that despite the game not having a whole lot of variability in the setup, there's a ton of variability in what's coming out and how the game ends up playing out based on how those cards come out. And that's really cool. So let's talk about the solo AI, the Countess variant as this is called. So you're playing against an AI who is taking cards. She breaks all of the rules, but you're controlling which cards you give to her. And this now adds another level of thought because you need to start planning, what can I give to the AI that isn't necessarily going to help her? And you'll see in my playthrough, I started giving her a lot of food cards because I didn't need them and most of those weren't scoring anything. But the problem is, later on in the game, she ended up with a card randomly, not one that I drafted her, right? Because every round she's getting one from the top of the reserve pile. She ended up with a card that randomly gave her 3 points per food, and now all of that food that I gave her was a mistake on my part. And that's something I can know going into the game, and I can start thinking about in the back of my head. And I probably should have, but at the same time, my brain and my eyes start seeing all of these point values on all of the cards that I could be giving her. And while I could have given her a 5 or a 6 or a 7 point card, instead of one of those food cards, at the end of the game, those food cards ended up scoring her more because of those combo cards that came out. And that's something that's interesting that you have to sort of think ahead about and start planning for. Now, the other thing that the AI brings in are those event cards. And those event cards are really cool because they sort of throw a wrench into the works. They change how things are going to happen. And these are usually things that happen after the build round or the build phase. So you can sort of adjust what you're doing and plan for how these things are going to play out later on. And because you can see those events at the beginning of the round. But some of those events are also altering the way that the phases themselves work, right? You saw the one event, I think it was the rats, that told me I could draft one less card unless I wanted to pay 3 coins. There's another card that does something similar for building. So all of these events are really, really throwing things at you or changing things up to make you think on your feet and to make you adjust your strategy and your tactics in order to minimize the damage that comes from these events. And on top of that, you've got that one Jester card that you can use at any point during the game to eliminate one of those events. And here's another bit of a push your luck here, right? You could throw that Jester early to get something out that's going to be really, really painful for you. But then later on in the game, something worse might come along and you won't have that anymore. Or you get the event card that I got that forces you to use the Jester if you haven't already. So there's just a lot of this sort of forward-thinking, long-term planning, but not so long-term because there's always the chance that something gets twisted or messed up along the way. And I like that. I like that a lot. I'm a tactical player. I like dealing with difficulties that arise along the way. And I like how there's a bit of strategy here, but there's also this need for constant reevaluation as you play through. Now, the Countess is not incredibly easy to play against, and there was one small negative that you saw, it did come up in this game, and it comes up occasionally, is that card that comes off the top of the deck, or the top of the reserve deck during the event phase of every round, is randomly drawn, and it could be huge, or it could be nothing at all. And yes, early in the game, if it's huge, that means you get less events for the next round. But you saw in the very last turn of the game, while the last turn she's not supposed to get a card off the top of the reserve, I did have the event card that made that happen. And that last card that got flipped over was a 20-point card, and that was huge. So there is a little bit of randomness here, maybe more than a little bit of randomness as to what the Countess is going to get. But I'm okay with that. I think there's enough mitigation that you can do throughout the game that you shouldn't really get crushed by any one card turning over. Now, 20 points is big for sure, but I don't think that's going to happen very often either. So yes, there's randomness here. Yes, the Countess is going to be a little bit brutal occasionally, but I do like the puzzle that it presents. I do like the combination of strategy and tactics that it requires of me to do well in the game. And you know what? Even if I don't do well in the game, just this idea of thinking about how do I chain the cards together? Do I take high-scoring cards, or do I take cards that are going to help me in the future rounds? Do I take some of those lock cards that unlock other cards and then hopefully get lots of cards that are unlocked by that so I can keep dropping those 2 coins on those cards to get more money throughout the game? There's just a lot going on here, and I really do like that. Now, the only other negative that I will say about the solo game is I've got a lot of the Kickstarter extras. There are quite a few other types of cards that came in the original Kickstarter version of this game, and unfortunately, in the Countess solo mode, none of those are usable. And also, the special cards, which is another type of villager card, which sort of give you game rule-breaking abilities that you can use. Instead of drafting a villager to place that villager in your town or in your village, you can draft a villager that gives you a one-use ability that helps in some other way. And those are some really cool cards, but unfortunately, in the Countess solo mode, those cards are not usable. And that's a little bit of a disappointment. It's not completely annoying to the point where it bothers me to play this game, because the game is still a whole lot of fun. But it would have been nice if there was a way to figure out a way to include those special cards and also those Kickstarter extra cards into the solo game. So as you can see, I really had a lot of fun with this game. I think there's a good solo game here. I don't know if I would recommend it 100% for solo only, but if this is a game that you would play multiplayer and solo as well, I definitely strongly recommend this game. And even if you're going to play it only solo, definitely check it out, because there's a really cool card drafting tableau building game in here, and I had a lot of fun with it, and I don't see it going anywhere for quite some time. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe below, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.